Just yesterday, on a different topic, HBCUs, a number of them have gotten more bomb threats today. Yesterday said that the bomb threats were disturbing. Can you update us on what, if any, more information the White House, the President has about these potential threats? And is there a concern that it is, in fact, linked to Black History Month?
Well, we don't have an assessment at this point. We are continuing to evaluate. Our Homeland Security Advisor here in the White House, Liz Sherwood-Randall, is providing regular updates to senior staff, to the President as well, and he certainly is aware of the latest instance of bomb threats, not just yesterday, but also those this morning. Let me just reiterate that we condemn these disturbing threats, and our thoughts are with the students, faculty, and staff of these storied institutions. We have been long supporters and have made historic investments in HBCUs and deeply value the significant role they continue to play in advancing opportunity for Black students across America. But right now, we don't have any assessment or new assessment right now.
Any chance that the President, or are there any discussions about the President visiting one of these HBCUs to reaffirm the commitment that the White House has to the protection of the students?
He has certainly visited HBCUs in the past, Kristen. Obviously, right now our focus is on ensuring we are working in close coordination with our law enforcement authorities and ensuring that the leaders of these institutions and the students know that we are watching closely and that we are standing with them as they face these threats. But I don't have any trip to predict at this point in time.
On that, please.
I'll go to you next, April. Let me just finish, Kristen.
Really quickly.
Go ahead.
Tomorrow's the one-year anniversary of the Family Reunification Task Force. As you know, Secretary Mayorkas has told NBC News that the White House is 100% supportive of permanent legal status for families separated at the border. Is that a true statement? Is that fair?
We stand by Secretary Mayorkas. April, go ahead, and then I'll come back to you. Go ahead.
Okay, so Jen, back on the HBCU bomb threats. There is a historic issue when it comes to bomb threats in the Black community. Mm-hmm. And with that said, you have people like Lee Merritt calling it terrorism, and he's asking for the DOJ, Homeland Security, and U.S. Attorney's Office to investigate, to form a task force, specifically on these issues. Is there talk around the White House for this to happen?
Well, what I can tell you, April, is that we take these threats incredibly seriously. That, again, our Homeland Security Advisor is in close touch with law enforcement authorities at a federal and local level, and we are assessing what we think the origin, the reasoning, the motivation behind it is. We don't have an assessment of that quite yet, and I don't want to get ahead of that process, but we absolutely are behind these HBCUs. We are want to make very clear that we take these threats seriously and we deeply value their contributions, but it's important for law enforcement authorities and others to make an assessment before we make any determinations about next steps.
And does the White House see the irony in this moment with these continued bomb threats of HBCUs, particularly as much of the power structure up and down Pennsylvania Avenue are graduates of HBCUs, starting with the Vice President, Howard University, Cedric Richmond Morehouse, Joyce Beatty, the head of the CBC, Central State, the House Whip, James Clyburn, South Carolina State. So is there irony in this moment?
I'm not sure I would call it irony, April, but I would say that it is scary, it is horrifying, it is terrible that these students, these faculty, these institutions are feeling under threat. Now, again, we don't know more details at this point in time, and I don't want to get ahead of law enforcement authorities, but certainly, given the history you referenced, this is something we're very mindful of, and that is why we're so focused on providing regular updates and seeing what our law enforcement team assesses.
And lastly, on the policing executive orders, Reverend Al Sharpton says that there's now a move to break apart the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act for standalone pieces that could possibly go up for a vote and one way or the other pass or fail. And they're doing that because the executive orders don't have as much teeth as a law. What do you say to this effort to break apart the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and make each portion a standalone bill?
Well, what I can assess from here, April, is whether there'd be support for getting that across the finish line and signed into law. As you know, the president very much wanted to sign the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act into law, and we did not take executive actions at the time because we wanted to leave room and space for that process to proceed in a bipartisan manner. So I'd really point you to leadership and committee chairs in Congress to see what is possible on that front. And certainly we agree, a law is more permanent than executive orders. That is absolutely true, but we have not even finalized, nor do I have a preview of exactly when it would be a police reform executive order. So I would also encourage people to wait to assess what that looks like.